Hello and welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition which deals basically with two things. One, the area of the layout next to get a makeover, which also removed one of my niggles, which you'll remember is one of the things I'm now being able to turn my attention to. And also the ideas that I've had for the new layout, the one for the London tube train. One thing I forgot to mention at the end of the video was the two locomotives that you see double heading the coal train in the running session, which is the 56XX class locomotive and the large Prairie, both of which have been made by Scenic models. And I thought it'd be quite nice to have those two running as a double header. So let's reveal to you first of all what area of the layout I decided needed a makeover first. At the end of the last video I said that I would be looking to work on one of two areas. One of them was up and around Grey Havens and looking at the cemetery and areas around there, and the other is what you see in front of you, which is the depot. The depot is the one that I've chosen because, of course, you are looking at it. Now, what you can see is a picture that I took at the end of the last video when I was describing how I was going to, which of the two areas I might work in. And the thing that had bugged me was the really almost orangey scatter that I'd used in and around the turntable at that end of the depot. This end of the layout or this part of the layout had not been finished completely. It had been finished enough to allow me to move on to do the next bit that I wanted to do. So I was always going to come back to it, but that brown scatter has been eating at me for quite a while. Partly because it's more orange than brown. It is Jarvis dark brown scatter that I used on that, but it didn't. I don't know. It never really worked. And when I was putting it down and working with it, I was thinking this isn't working. But my focus was much more at getting the area filled so I could move on. So, not long after I finished recording the last video, I started prodding at the dark brown scatter and it came away quite nicely. So it wasn't too long before most of it had been scraped away. And if I bring you to the current picture, you'll see that it's changed quite a bit. Now, all I've done to this, I scraped most of the dark brown scatter away, but not all of it. In places it was left. And then I went over with the same scatter as I'd used for this part, which I've always been really happy with, which is also Jarvis scatter, but this time it's dark earth. Now, I've not filmed myself doing this bit because essentially what I've done is exactly the same as I did when I completed this bit. And I'll put in the link below the video to the video where I worked on that section, because I showed me putting the stuff in and then how I weathered using weathering powders. The bits that didn't come up, of course, was the bits here which are ballast, so they were left alone. And what I've done now is to put the Jarvis dark earth scatter all in place all along here. And I'm just checking that light's working, and it is. It's quite weak. The dark earth scatter that's all down here, and I've carried it on further up here because I'm starting now to work in this signal box. The base that it comes with, which is an integral part of the kit, I painted in a concrete colour, but now what I want to do is actually blend that in so that it doesn't look as though it's sitting on top of everything. I want to be a bit careful because if I need to remove this because to replace the light, so I don't want to stick it down permanently, but I think what I'm going to do is put a wall round two sides which sits over the edge and holds it in place, but would allow me to take it out. I'm going to put some more ballast down the front here and stick it on the front of the, to hide the join. And then I'm going to be putting more bushes and things along this side with a wall dividing. The thing that's got to go back in, that will sit back in there, and I'll run a wall behind with some bushes. And I want to put a bit more bushes and shrubs and things in various places, not too much, because generally in depots there wouldn't have been that much in the way of bushes, but this is a big empty area, and although I've got things to put back in, which I've obviously taken all off, I want to break it up a bit more than just using the weathering powders, and we'll see how you know, with clumps of dead or dry grass, because generally speaking I think they'd have kept it pretty clear, except that my period, the railway wasn't in the best of state after the Second World War for one reason or another, so it may be that it's not as well kept as it might have been. And I also need to put some lamps in here, and I'm trying to make my mind up whether this lamp here is a white lamp. I don't know if you can really see that. It's not a very strong white lamp. All the other lamps that I've got are warm white, but I do have some yard lamps which are not quite the same design as this. They're double-headed, which are white, and I'm just wondering if I might allow myself to have a bit of white light around here, just as contrast to all the warm white that's everywhere else. And I just need to have a think about that, because I think the white, the brighter white, is much later than my period, so I need to do a bit of work on the internet before I decide. It doesn't matter, because I've got another 5 lamps of the kind that are in the gasworks. If you have a look over there, I'll just zoom you in a little bit, so you see the ones that are in the gasworks there, the 3 of them that are there. I've got more of those if I need to put them in, because the other place I want to put another lamp in is over here somewhere. So what I'm going to do is go away and have a think about what other things I want to put on here, because the other thing is that I've never really decorated any of this with stuff. Now, how much stuff there would have been just hanging around other than ash and coal? I don't think there'd have been lots of rusty rail. There wouldn't have been cable drums or any of that kind of material. So I just need to have a think about what there might be. There might have been bits of old engine, I suppose, if I've got any old bits of engine knocking around. So I'll have a look and see what I've, because I do have 1 or 2 locos where I've taken bits off. So that's what I'm going to be working on for the most of this video, and by the end of it we will see what I have done in trying to make this into a more enticing scene. At the end of the last video I said that I was intending to build a new layout which would be separate from Elvenhome and sit underneath it, because it's intended to be based around the London Underground, to give me something prototypical on which to run the 1938 tube stock that Revolution trains are intending to produce. Can I just first of all say thank you to everybody that took time to comment, even if it's just encouragement, but particularly those that gave me ideas about the potential layout design, those who were worried in particular for the state of my knees crawling around under the layout. Ewan Chalmers at Blackwood, who gave me a call and gave me some useful ideas about how I might support the baseboards for the new layout under the existing baseboards I've got here, and other people that gave me ideas about using shuttles and things. A bit later in the video I will explain to you or show you what my current idea for a track plan is, and be interested in thoughts and the way in which I'm going to power the track, because I found a DCC shuttle that looks quite interesting. But if any of you have actually used this, it would be useful to have any comments, but that's for a bit later. First of all, I wanted to explain a bit more about why it is that I think I'm going to need to hand build the track. It's not absolutely certain, as I'll explain very shortly, but I think I may well need to hand build the track, not just because there are 4 rails on the 1938 tube stock used. 2 of them were the running rails for the train to run on, and 2 provide the power. Now, one decision I have made, which I'm going to tell you now, is that I am going to model a deep level platform based around the Angel Islington as I remember it, and the last time I travelled through it was a very long time ago, and then it was still an island platform, but I think that gives me some opportunities for modelling. And that also presents added complication in being able to use any proprietary track for reasons that I will explain shortly. I did think about doing some of the surface stations that were on the tube lines, so up towards Stanmore Way or out towards Uxbridge or Mill Hill East, which was the one I was thinking of because it was a single track, which would go quite well. But I decided that actually a tube train is a tube train. They do run above ground, but they were built to run in tunnels. So that's what I'm going to be building. Now I'll just adjust the picture, the camera, and talk to you a bit about why I think I may need to hand build the track as a consequence. This is an image of Clapham North Station that I got off Wikipedia Creative Commons. So the attribution is in the link below for the photographer. And it shows how the Angel Islington used to be. This station, Clapham Common and the Angel Islington are all on the Northern Line. And this is what I meant when I was saying how scary these platforms are. When it's really busy and trains are coming in either side of you, it's very narrow, that platform. But it will give you an idea of partly why I've chosen it, because it will make it slightly more interesting for how I'm going to operate the layout, which I'll talk a little bit about in the second section. But you can see that there is one large area for the trains to come in. I've got a feeling that's something like 60 foot wide on the Angel Islington, a very narrow platform. And you'll also get an idea of some of the challenges and why I want to, or may have to, build the track for the visible bit, because it will only be this bit that will be visible when I build the layout. Now this is very similar to the Angel Islington, including a set of stairs which came up to lifts at the Angel. I don't know if it's the case here. And when they redesigned the Angel and took out the lifts, they put in what is the longest escalator on the underground, and it may even be the longest escalator anywhere in the UK, because it had to get so far down, and they preferred to put escalators in rather than the old-fashioned lifts that made it quite slow to get on and off in rush hour. Now what I will do is I'll just switch to a different photograph, which will be of Southgate, because it gives a slightly better view of what's going on with the track. This is Southgate Station on the eastern end of the Piccadilly line. It's on the westbound platform looking east, I think, because you can see out through the tunnel. But it gives you a closer view of what's happening here. Now, as I said, you have 4 rails essentially when you're modelling on the underground, because 2 are power rails, the ones that are sitting on the isolators, and the 2 running rails. But in the platforms on deep level stations, that when they were first built, there was a problem with drainage. So they put in drainage pits that run the whole length of the platform. They start usually just after they come out of the tunnel and obviously end just before they go into the next one. Now these drainage pits actually had a useful byproduct, if you're not sure that's quite the right word. They discovered that if someone was to fall on the line, provided they didn't come into contact with the rails carrying the power, it greatly increased the chance of survival. But they were not put in for that purpose. It was entirely drainage. But you'll see now why it is that I may need to hand build this part of the track. Now, it's not necessarily certain that I will, because my original idea was to be able to build with code 40, partly because I would quite like to have a go at building some track, and using code 33, which is not strictly track, but a flattened wire. Now I can't see any code 30 on the 2mm Society shop, so it may be that's been discontinued. Another possibility might be to use code 55 track and use code 40 for the power rails. But even if I did that, I've still got to find a way to do the pit. Now, one possibility which is going through my mind is whether the Pico inspection pits might be able to be used and adapted so that I can put in the middle power rail and obviously fix, because it's quite wide, I would be able to fix the outer power rail. So that's a possibility too. And I just need to sort of work my way around which ones of those I'm going to do. But it is getting the pit in place and the 4 rails, and there will be the 2 platforms where each of this. Now that's all going to be visible. So that's part of the challenge, I think, of doing this part of the layout. Having held you in suspense for long enough, it's about time I showed you what the layout is going to look like. Well, I've kept you waiting long enough for what the track plan is going to be. A number of people that commented talked about a design of a layout, of a dog bone layout, which would have given me exactly what I wanted. If you remember from last time, I was saying that what I wanted to be able to do was for the train to enter in the normal way it would if we're looking at a platform from the left. into the platform. It would then exit to the right, go round the bit that was off-site, and come back on the nearer platform from the right going to the left. And a dog bone design would do that. My problem is I simply don't have the space to be able to build without going inclines or declines, a full dog bone in the area that I think I've got, which is about 4 foot by 3 foot. However, half a dog bone is better than none. And what you see in front of you is what I intend to do and to use, which is half of a dog bone layout. So the platform will sit here with the two platforms, with the two running lines, and most of this will be off screen. And the train will leave, I'm not sure which way I'll do it, but will leave from one platform, go round, and my intention is that it will go round to a point and then pause, probably on this track I would guess, and it will wait for a period of time, and then it will carry on and come in on the other platform where it will wait for a period of time and then do it all in reverse. And that's the intention. This area, you'll see I've put tunnels. One thing I should say, I modelled this on Rail Modeler Pro, and of course I can only use on Rail Modeler Pro proprietary track. So this is all modelled in code 55 FlexiTrack. It's all FlexiTrack, and one of the advantages of this is there's no points, which is rather good. I've used 10.5-inch radius curves for the inside, and those are 12 on the outside, which is sort of second and third radius if you were using standard code 80 track. That's bigger than second radius. It's between second and third, and that's maybe even fourth radius there. So that I know that that's should be comfortable for the train, for the intended model to run on. Now powering this will be entertaining. And I did look at various shuttles. Some of them you would fit up to an existing DCC system, and obviously I've got my system, it'd be easy enough to wire it into. Although the ones that I looked at, I wasn't 100% sure about them, and it was quite difficult. I don't know how many I would need. I don't rule them out, but whilst I was looking, I came across this, if I put it in place, which is from Block Signalling. It's a DCC shuttle and station stop module, which has its own source of power, a 12-volt supply. You don't hook it up to your DCC system, but it is a DCC shuttle system, and you can wire up the layout exactly as I want it to do. So on a single piece of track, and this is a single piece of track, the train will move off. You can wire it so that there are station stops, and it will pause. It will then carry on to the other end of the line and pause, and then do it all in reverse, and it will keep doing that until you turn it off, which is very much what I want to do. Now, I don't know if anybody's used one of these. I have one or two questions. I did put a comment seeking some advice on their website, and I'm sorry to say I've had absolutely no response, and there's no other way that I know of getting in touch with them than this through the website. Because the one thing that I am wondering is that the way this works is that the first time a set of wheels with contacts goes over the break in the track, obviously you put a break in the track so that it can detect it's moved into the controlled section. The unit sends a signal to the DCC chip, and the train will slow to a stop and then wait, and then it will carry on, or reverse depending what it's going to do. Now, the 1938 train pack that has the powered cars in it has two powered cars. I don't think that will cause a problem. The first chip will obviously move into the section, but rather that I'm hoping that both chips will recognise that they've got to start slowing down. Otherwise, we could have a bit of a nasty accident if the one at the back is carrying on trying to push at whatever speed. But it's not very expensive. And once I've got some track to play with, I will see if I can get it to work. I might try a double header around a coach, which would simulate having two, or even just the two power cars off of the Midland Pullman, actually thinking that's a better solution. So that's where I've got to so far. The baseboard, I'm thinking, is going to be obviously 4 foot long by 3 foot deep. It is possible, I'll have to get the baseboards made because, as I've said, I think last time, I possess almost no woodworking tools, and I don't really have anywhere I can do any kind of extensive woodworking in the flat. But the thought that has already struck me is that what I might do, given that I've got to get the baseboards made, and there are companies out there that to make them, is that I might buy 2 baseboards that are 4 foot by 1.5 foot, because the back half is only going to be track. There's not going to be anything else on it. So that can all be built and left under the layout. And the front half can come out and sit on my desk for me to be able to work on it, hence saving my knees. Because my intention would be that everything from about here beyond would be out of sight if you were looking at the front of the layout. There will be the station area is going to be here, and I've got to make up my mind how far I will try and curve it over before I stop it so that you can see what's going on. And then obviously it goes into the tunnels, but I will put a backboard right across there so you can't see anything that's going on at the back. And I may have to cover over the top, but we'll see whether I need to do that as well. But and I think I'm going to try and mount it on casters so that I can wheel the whole thing in and out. So that's quite a lot of things to think about. That's my current disease thoughts. And I'll be interested in any views you've got on what I'm currently planning. So it's now time to show you where I've got to in doing the scenic work on this part of the layout. I've put this on widescreen to save me having to move it, but I've taken some photographs as we go along, so I'll put them up as we come to them. The main thing that you'll see is that I have actually largely used grass to fill this area, which is a mixture. I think I put some summer grass on, but then went over with 2 layers of patchy grass, and I'm quite happy with that. I would like to get some other things to go in, and I do have some bike sheds on order from P&D Marsh Models, and the bike sheds are going to go over here, because I'm sure there would have been bike sheds at the depot. But as I said earlier, I don't think the kind of detritus that you see in the modern railway, or did see in the modern railway, or knocking around heritage lines in depots, were really in depots on British Rail or their predecessors. So I'll find things as I go along. I have put 2 figures into here by the coming out of the mess room. You'll see also that I've put the set that I bought from Model U of engine cleaners. That locomotive has been playing me up for an awful long time, and I've bought various spare parts for it, and it just didn't want to play. So it's now going to be a static diorama of the cleaners working. I've moved this building to be here, to be the control building for the turntable, and he has a person put outside. You'll also see, which is a bit difficult to see, that I did decide to put white lights in the depot. And interestingly enough, because I put white lights here, this one appears to be brighter. do not ask me how that works. And you'll also see that I've put some figures in around there. I changed my mind on what I was going to do to disguise the signal box, and in the end just put round it, because I realised that because I've stuck this roof on, if the light goes in there, I won't be able to get in to replace it without destroying the model anyway. So there's no need to worry about being able to remove it. You'll see I've also put a path in here with a little chappie running on it, and various people have gone in. It's amazing how many people you need to really make a difference, but just having sun is a step forward for me. While I was busy putting lights in, if I move you around here somewhere, I did put in 2 new lights. I put a little lamp in here because this was too dark here, and I also put the 3rd light that I said I would put in. And at the same time, Engage Models sent me an email saying that they finally had produced something that was used for moving wood around, and so that's gone in as well with the right kind of grab. The forklift truck that's there, I'm quite sure would never have been used to move logs, and you need that kind of grab. It's possible that vehicle is actually slightly wrong for my period, but I'm not too worried because there's nothing else out there. I've looked all over, and you want something that would actually move the logs around once they've been offloaded from the barges. There's also a little chappie has gone in down here. It was a model of someone leaning up against something, and I couldn't for the life of me think what I'd have him lean up against. So I've had him lean up against the pub, and you can make your own mind up why he needs to lean up against the pub. So that's been quite successful, I think. There will be more work to be done on the depot over time. The muse has rather left me, which is unusual, but it has rather left me. I've got more figures to go in, which are for the gasworks, and I'll do those by the time of the next video and show you them then. But that's really it for this episode. It's been quite a lot in there, particularly about the build of the new of the underground layout. So I hope you've enjoyed all the various bits and pieces, and of course if you've got any comments, I really do welcome comments, particularly anything to do with using that block signalling system as the shuttle. And if you've liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because there's going to be quite a bit I think I'm going to be doing by way of experiment, so Ian will be pleased, to see how I'm going to make the underground layout work in the way that I want it to do. And until I speak to you again in about 4 weeks' time, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.